Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of One Step at a Time with me, your host, Adrian Avila. Today, I have the pleasure of having a good friend of mine, Christopher Rubio, who's a real estate broker. Good friend of mine, done projects together, and just, has an amazing story behind his upbringings, his background in the real estate market, and just overall good person. So who better to be here than my buddy Chris Rubio? So Chris, you say hi to everybody.
Hello. Hola.
All right. And so now, Chris, just give everybody a little bit of background about yourself and what you've done in your life and and what you're doing today.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks to the production team, and thanks for everybody for watching this. Yeah, a little about myself. I grew up here in LA County in Roland Heights. And went to college at Cal State Fullerton, and then did the whole corporate thing before I got into real estate. Moved to LA for a job opportunity. Had a couple jobs there. Went to Orange County, so I'm in Orange County today. So that's kind of where I've traveled. So I know a lot about we're here in the SGV, San Gabriel Valley, but I became very knowledgeable about different areas because of everywhere I was moving. It was very nomadic, right? So I went from the city down to South Orange County, North Orange County, SGV. So it's really great to serve clients and mostly in these areas, what I call the 57, 55, the 605 kind of corridor. That's kind of the area we do most of our business, but
Right.
we're lucky enough to be fortunate to help clients pretty much all throughout Southern California.
Yep.
So in terms of my story, so yeah, I went the whole corporate route. I know we're both entrepreneurs and started our business, but after college, I worked for aerospace. I worked for a big real estate company in Beverly Hills. I worked for Experian Financial Services. I had a lot of internships in college. I'm going to Cal State Fullerton, and I got my master's at USC. So that's when I was in LA. Actually, I moved to Orange County as well. So that's how I got my foundation, is really working in the corporate world before I made that leap of faith to start my own company.
Right. And we always take that risk, right? To branch away from our 9 to 5 and a guaranteed paycheck. But Chris, like, just really quick, like, just so that people get a little idea, like, have any special hobbies that you like doing?
Yeah, I like a lot of things. A lot of people are complaining about the rain here in Southern California, but it's going to be great for those people who love the mountains and want to get some different scenery or see green over here in Southern California.
Right.
But yeah, no, I definitely like to snowboard. So everything with the snow here, it's just, we're very fortunate to have real powder. I picked up jiu-jitsu actually, and so I did that today, and yeah, doing learning. It's very humbling. So it's kind of like when maybe you've been in your business or whatever you do, your job, and you've been doing it for 15, 20 years, and you're like the black belt of your position. But it's so humbling in jiu-jitsu, man. You'll have a kid, he'll take you out, bro.
Yeah.
Or and you're learning from somebody, because I'm starting new, right? I've been kind of doing it for about 6 months now. So it's a good reminder that to always be the student, I feel, right? And you always want to learn. Even if you're at the top of your game, you've got something to learn, right? And also be humble. And I think one of the things we can get egos as entrepreneurs, like, yeah, or we have all this business coming in, or, I have all these tax write-offs I can have now, right? So I'm kidding, but I think that is, the new thing that I picked up, and it's really, really good for even mental stress, because if you try to do this and think about anything else, you're going to get your butt kicked, So like, it really challenges you to do like every muscle, every position, your fingers, to everything, man. So
Yeah.
it's really great. I highly encourage it, especially for anybody, kids, women, but you might get hurt a little bit. So don't go too hard, would be my suggestion. But those are some of the couple things that I do, and other than the gym and bodyboard and things like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was going to ask you about the jiu-jitsu because I saw you starting to post it. And, now that you talked about it, how do you transition now going into jiu-jitsu, right? And using the learnings you there into your practice now that,
It's a great question. I think it's a stress reliever, right? So a lot of people, it could be, reading your books. It can be, meditating, right? You hear, whatever that is. So for me, there's so much going on, I feel, as an entrepreneur, maybe where I'm at. I know there's certain entrepreneurs where, their staff is running everything, and I don't, that's not the level where I'm at. So I'm kind of the guy handling a little bit of everything. That's what the entrepreneurs do, right? So they're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? A little bit of accounting, a little bit of, selling, a little bit of, right? So you kind of, you're the point person, right? So I feel that sometimes you need to clear your mind. That's very, very important. So that can also be reading a book. So that is one piece of it. I think for the transition is that we're so most entrepreneurs that I know, they're always on the go, on the grind, but you do need that step to take time to help your body. And I also feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, like I said, it will humble you. Yeah. It is very humbling because you got somebody who's much younger than you, might even be thinner than you, and they're gonna armbar you, or they're gonna do something. So like you start to be thankful for where you got, no matter where you're at, and not just for any entrepreneur. It could be your career, right? Yeah. You're just like, hey, I'm at this level and I still got a lot to learn. So I think those two pieces are really what it comes down to. I think the third thing is, I'm reading this book, Atomic Habits, that I know a lot of people have out there. Mm-hmm. It's good to get some type of system going, right? So a lot of people are going to say like, hey, you got to incorporate some type of workout, whether it's walking or, running or, powerlifting, whatever it is that you do. So I feel for me, it's like that stress reliever. Rather than seeing a psychologist, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that would be great. But for me, that's my psychology, because I actually have time to not think about anything else. And then, you're defending yourself. And you know what I'm saying? And I also feel that physical part of your habits or your schedule, and again, I don't know if you're going to get a six pack from just doing jiu-jitsu. Maybe if you're doing it all day, maybe, or anything like that. But I do feel that it starts building, what I tell a lot of people is like, if you are just down and out, the first thing you should do is like, just work out. Yep. Just work out and you'll start building from there, because you look better, you feel better. So I think it's also part of that. And even though we're going to the gym, you might get bored of your routine. Like, oh my God, I hate the Stairmaster for 30 minutes. So I think it's actually helped me while reading Atomic Habits and being humble and combining these elements, where I'm actually able to now build better habits. And then like my thing was really the ego, like, hey, I'm the best of the best. And it's like, whoa, you got to step back. You're really not, right? Even though we're killing it, we're getting our contracts or deals, or, even if you're not in sales, just whatever, you got that promotion out there. So I think it's just really a healthier, more grounded life, and being more humble.
No, for sure. And I mean, like you said, you get humbled pretty quickly because somebody smaller and lighter than you,
it's crazy,
is about to take you down, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Even a woman, who's half your size, she I mean, can we cuss here? But she's gonna kick your butt, right? So, and it's also good, so it's really helped me out, and it's actually taken me away. That's the other thing, is that a lot of people may drink. I was a big partier, right? So sometimes, as we're going on entrepreneur career, journey, we're going to be going up, we're going to go down, we're going to have lots of contracts, and sometimes we have none, or, it's just that story. And so, one of the things that I was doing in the good times was just spending excessively, right? So I think for me, taking your time and putting it somewhere else, and it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, it can be anything more productive, right? Reading your books, or, your audio books, or whatever it is, or doing things like we're doing today. Adrian, it's great to see you, doing this. Really enjoy it.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'll get to why we're doing this, but, like you said, we have to build our routine, right? Our routine it's kind of like what sets the day for us, right? And so, you say you get humbled really quick when you're doing this, but like, and you talked about the ego, right? And I know when it comes to ego, we're always like fighting our own ego at that point, right? And we can sit on this high horse. I mean, I get told I have a big ego sometimes, right? But sometimes the ego is a good thing, right? Sometimes it's a good thing if we're using it to better ourselves, is what I tell people, right? I agree with that. But, so my girl tells me the other day, she goes, your ego is so high, like you can't even see the wall you sit on. And I was like, no, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. But you know what? Like sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like I understand why she says that,
Yeah.
right? And so I sometimes can take it as an insult, right?
Sure.
Right? Because it's like, fuck, like, somebody's like pointing something out, right?
Right.
But like my question to you is like, you're in the real estate market and everything, and real estate agents are called like bottom feeders, right? Like it's like the attorneys and real estate agents are like, they're just
There's
like
a ton of them.
right?
There's a lot of real estate agents. Everybody's an agent. Even the, your next door neighbor's niece is a real estate agent.
Right? So, I mean, like, you hear all this shit all the time. So my question to you is like, what's the biggest insult you have ever received, but you're proud of it?
Man, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go outside of real estate.
Yeah.
And I worked at Carl's Jr. right here in City of Industry, and
Off of Fairway?
right off Fairway, dude.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Oh man, I love that job. And you know what? It was really crazy. So I was working the drive-through. This guy James, he went to Rolling 2, and somebody's ordering, and right when you hear the order, you're whack from another car. So somebody rear-ended somebody in the drive-through. And so I was like, hey, you guys are like, I'm in the drive-through headset, whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, are you guys okay over there? And so we go out like, hey, is everybody good or what's happening? Because we have drive-through time, so you gotta move that line, right? And people's orders. So so I come out there and the lady goes, well, it looks like she hit me, right? I was like, I mean, I wasn't here to see it, but I mean, clearly you have a you have a dent in your bumper here, And the lady behind her goes, you know what? What do you know? You're just a burger boy. Man, that has not left me, dude. And it is not. And so, I think, again, speaking maybe about being humbled a little bit, is that, whether it's the burger boy, that could be the next, McDonald's that's coming out there, I mean, everybody, they were small at one time. A lot of these big corporations are small. So, I wouldn't judge anybody or be too hard just because of where they're at in their life or, or anything like that. But yeah, man, that's the one that I'll never let go of, man. So whenever I die, man, and you're at my funeral or anything, dude, bring that one up, bro. That's
like, can we just put in the stone, like burger boy, like
burger boy, dude. Yeah.
Like it's crazy, right? Like it's like but it's like you don't take it personally, right? You actually like embraced it, like, all right, you know what?
I did, but I was pissed, bro. I was like, I'm not just in the back end. I was like, I'm not just a burger boy. I'm becoming like the assistant manager. I'm gonna go to college.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be something and do something later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where she was really, I mean, cell phones weren't even that big that day, right?
Yeah.
So like, how did you hit the car in front of you? It wasn't mechanical.
Mechanical. There you go.
So yeah, man.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it's a fun story to tell, right? At the same time, but we talk about how we struggle as entrepreneurs, and I mean, I know you've gone through stuff. I've gone through shit, and it's about how we get to the other side. But people don't understand, especially in real estate. And I mean, my business is tied to real estate too, right? In building and in construction. So I would say, what would be the biggest lesson you've ever learned from a failure? And it doesn't have to be part of the real estate world, but just in general.
Yeah.
And like, what did you learn from your experiences?
Well, I'm more humble from jiu-jitsu, man. I'll tell you that. But on that same theme, I'm constantly failing. At jiu-jitsu, I'm constantly failing where, maybe I didn't get that client or, that contract or, maybe I didn't speed something up where I should have, or maybe I didn't secure, right? There's just all these things. So to anybody, I think you have to be, you want to minimize, what's perceived failure, but I don't look at it that way. So that's number one. I think if there's any opportunity to learn, I think the second thing to answer your question is, you can't do this by yourself. And that ties back to the ego thing. A lot of us, like we're Superman, right? Like, hey, I got my business here. I'm kicking ass. I made $1 million or whatever it is you made, 10 million, whatever. I made 100,000. Who cares, right? So like, I just feel that like there's people I always tell people it's about your story. So, along those journeys, like who's really who's really rooting for you, right? And who's really part of your team, right? And your team will have levels, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm part of your team, you're part of my team. Anything I can do to help you, thanks for having me on the podcast. But yeah, anything we can do to help you get business or just even personally or professionally, right? So there's levels, right, of how you should rank that. But don't lose sight of that. I would say as anybody, even in your career, you have to have a good surrounding. And a lot of people say, well, like, oh, try to have people that are better than you. Well, why would somebody better than you want to hang out with you? They're trying to, it doesn't make any sense, right? So yeah, I get it. Like, like I get the concept, but like, what are you going to add to their life? They're actually adding to you. If you had that theory, then they would always go to somebody higher level than them. So it's actually, I feel like when you get to a certain level in your career, they always say like the last thing is like you want to give back. And so Adrian, you being a part of the the organization here where we're doing the podcast and tying that into the story, it was awesome, man. Really awesome. And I've never heard anything from, like, I'm sure you did a lot of charitable things, but to do that and make that a foundation of your podcast and your business is something of a leader. So thank you for doing that. And it's actually inspired me even today.
No, thank you very much, Chris. Like I appreciate the kind words, man. Like honestly, because I mean, we've gone back doing flips together and everything like that, and back in the day, it's all about the money, right? It's like how much money am I going to make today, right? And we don't think about how we can make a difference tomorrow, right? And so, I mean, I've gone back and I've looked at my my failures, right? But it's like the lessons behind it, and like we're always learning, but it's the growth within that time through that questionable time that we go through. And with the market the way it is, it's like one day I could be building and the next day I'm like, you know what, like I got nothing.
That's right. Yeah, interest rates go up, and and there's this compounding effect, and there's things within your control and things without in your control. But I mean, there's just so many lessons, Adrian. From in terms of failure, just as I think it's like Jerry Maguire. I don't know, his quotes came in my mind, but guys like, I think it's Dickie Fox. He's giving the quotes to their movies. He's like, hey, I don't know everything, man, but I've failed as much as I succeeded, and I wish you the best life, man. And that's what I think is really all about, man. But I've had lawsuits. That's what I was dealing with. And then when it rains, it pours. I've had, my family litigation. There was a probate, so somebody died. So getting attacked from like all angles, man. And then some other drama, and you're just like business drama, right? Or personal, it's like so like I don't want to take the whole podcast. But that's what I'm saying. There's times where the armor is chinked, like that. That's why I go back to the ego. Man, I thought it was bulletproof. I can handle anything. I can handle anybody. I can, I can do I'm Superman, man, right? Like based on all the stuff, the way I grew up and I think I can do everything, which is great. That goes back to our ego thing. But, that's why I think the team, like who is really there for you? Like when you're down, hey, I need business. Okay, your boys, like if you reach out to me, Adrian, whether you're making $1 million, $10 million or $1 million or $10.
Yeah.
You reach out to me, I'm gonna always be there and try to find a way to try to help you get business or coach you through something, because that's what I think a good friend and a good partner. So going back to this, I think that core is just so solid, man. You can't lose sight of it, man.
No.
You really can really nurture that and be grateful and thank God for that, because I'm telling you, it's just even from some of you be, and then you get friends like you said, along that path, when you're going through your failures too, and you find out a lot about yourself. So it's just as much as you feel it's a failure. I don't look at it that way, man. It's just I learned, and now I'm more bulletproof. So it's beefing up the so it kind of works hand in hand, like you said. Hey, you don't want to be like not have an ego, but you don't want to like not feel good about yourself either.
And that's what I was talking about. It's like, like, because I know the details, right, of what's going on, but it's like, it's our day to day and how we wake up to conquer the day, right? And people are like, oh man, like, they see us on social media, like, oh man, these guys are living the high life, there's nothing going on with them, but behind the scenes, we're fucking human, right?
Yeah.
There's days that we sit back at home, we break down. There's moments I'm in my truck coming back from LA, dude, and I'm going through something, and I'll break down in the car, man. I'm like, man, like, okay. And it's a time like of reflection, right? And you're like, damn, okay, what am I gonna do next to like get me out of this situation and be better? And what did I learn from this? Right. And so, you know, I know you're going through stuff. I'm going through stuff, right? But
Yep,
it's
we are.
it's how do you keep your mind clear so you're able to succeed and help other people though, because you're helping other people make the biggest purchase of their life,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to be in a clear state too for them for that purchase.
Yeah. Well, you got to hold it together, right? So it's kind of like a good job acting. No, I mean, I think the first thing too is, I think, we love what we do. We love helping, clients, and we like working on complex things.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that's, you got to do what you love because that comes naturally. And I love people. And whether it's somebody, doing $100,000 transaction or, a $10 million transaction, I always say I treat them the same.
Yeah.
I grew up poor. Right. So, so I never really have my nose in the air. It doesn't matter what level, whether I had a great year or a bad year. It's like I was sitting next to a billionaire the other day. I didn't even know. Yeah. He's like, hey, I was sitting next to a billionaire. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Dude, it felt like the same as anybody else. He seemed like a smart guy and, very knowledgeable, but I don't look at him that way. So I think that, that lens is, kind of keeping everything kind of even keeled is, is a good thing.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, we're always like just trying to humble ourselves, right? But I know there comes a time where, we feel like we're broke, right? Meaning it doesn't have to be financially. It could be personally, spiritually. Like when you've felt being broke though, like, or broken, like what pulled you through? Like what got you to actually say, you know what, Chris, like, we got to do this to pull ourselves out. Like, what gave you that fire again? Because I feel that sometimes when we get to that point, our fire is so tiny that we can't even see it anymore.
Sure.
And so, like, how do you reignite that fire within you?
Yeah, I think, you have to, like, I think, like you said, like, just that small thing, like, hey, even though you broke down or however you feel, you, like, meditated. And so whether it's, I don't really like sit there and meditate, but what I do is I was in strategy consulting for one of my jobs, and I was like, hey, I got to be my own consultant. So like it's pretty easy to tell somebody what they're doing in their business, right? I can go look at what you do and be like, yo, Adrian, you should do this and this. Like, what do you know? So I know you're open-minded to things, so, and there's a way to communicate those things with people. I'm always up for opportunity for improvement. So you will never hurt my feelings. Yep. That's one thing. I don't care how you say it. You don't need to be nice to me. Yo, Chris, I think you should be doing that. So I think but I think that how I keep it together was making the changes because life is so dynamic. So that's what I was looking at. I was like, hey, like, where do I want to be? And what's my story? Don't forget, like, if anybody has anything against anything, is like, what is your story? Don't lose sight. And that could be your goals, that whatever that story is, or what your legacy you want it to be, or, when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, or whatever it is, like, what do you want to be able to say? And it's like, yeah, man, I just ran through the motions and grinded 20 hours a week, 20 hours a day on my business. And I never got to see my kids grow up, or I never got to spend time. My grandmother passed away of COVID. That was another big blow. So, so I don't ever think it affects the performance of the business. I think that because I love what I do, kind of going back to that. But yeah, we're on the other end and you need some type of outlet. So that's why I honestly, I was a consultant. I was like, okay, like I said before, what am I doing the gym wise, right? Like I feel like I'm gaining weight, or, I'm not looking as good as I want to. I don't have the energy regardless of how I look. Right. Where's my energy level at? So that was one area. I was like, okay, I'm going to incorporate jiu-jitsu. I don't want to get stuck in a situation, where I can't, I like to fight, by the way, but in a trained way. And the martial arts is not just about going out and pounding somebody, right? It's really how to protect yourself, as they call it, self-defense. So I think that was one big change. I made a big change to my team. I made a big change to my spending habits, right? I mean, seriously, I was getting bottle service like freaking every night, man. Like it was fun. It was a great story, but I'm done with that. I was like, man, I could have had another property or something like that. So I feel that you have to be your own consultant. at this time and change, whether it's meditating or doing these things. And I really changed a lot of things. So I'm super happy. I've never been happier, but I've also never been down at a low where, people around me are dying, and then, people are trying to sue me. My family's all going through a lot.
Yeah.
It was nuts, man. It's like the Wild West. So it's kind of calmed down a little bit, which is good. And yeah, man, fighting for money with your family. A lot of people out there do that when somebody passes away, and it's not good, man. You really see true characters come out when that money's on the table, I'll tell you. But thank God for everything. Thank God for those challenges, right? That makes you a better leader. That makes you, so I think it's kind of that, like, a little bit what you do, a little bit of change, looking at yourself as a consultant, and also just being very thankful that you have the opportunity, because now you can be a better leader going forward.
Yeah. And I feel like, I if I'm not mistaken, your grandma was a very big impact in your life.
Huge.
And I mean, and that goes for me too, right? Like, my grandma was my everything, right? That was my confidant. That was my consultant, right?
Yep.
And so the moment grandma passes, it's like, who do you turn to?
That's right. Yeah.
And so for me, when grandma passed, it was like, fuck, like, what do I do? Like, who do I talk to? Right?
It changes everything, right?
The whole game is like, it's like you're like Monopoly, right? You're like in jail, right? And you're like, I can't pay myself out right now, and I'm trying to figure out, like, the dice isn't rolling a double. Like, what am I doing to get out, right? And so when my grandma passed away, I was just like all over the place. I couldn't figure out what time it was. I couldn't figure out my schedule, and I had a system. But the moment that system was broken because of that one key component, I had to rebuild, right? I had to rebuild. And I feel that's where I am. Like, I feel like I'm still rebuilding from that, right? My grandma's been gone for almost 2 years, I'm sorry, going on 3 years. And it's like, you know what? Like, it's hard, right?
It is.
But, but I go back and I'm like, you know what? Grandma taught me faith, right? And I talk to my grandparents, like, if they're still here with me, sitting next to me.
That's great, yeah.
Right? And sometimes that consultant that you think you're talking to yourself, it's really your well, for me, it's my grandparents that are right here, like, consulting me, like, hey, Adrian, like, this is what you need to do. Like, snap out of it, let's go.
Good. That's what they would want you to do.
That's what they would want us to do.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I hear it, and I'm like, man, it's weird because, the teeth come out when family passes away, right?
That's right.
And, the teeth and the claws come out.
That's right.
But you know what? It's like we still love our family and everything, but it's just, it's our vulnerability time at that time. And so anything someone does, it triggers us. And that was me, right? I was getting triggered all the time. And because I was triggered, it affected my business. I was like, you know what? Like, F this person, forget them and forget this person.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit, hold on, let me take a step back. I got to control myself and really take a step back and love myself, because that's what they would have wanted.
Yep.
Right? And everything starts transpiring into the business and affecting relationships and everything.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And and at those times for me, that's what I started getting hit from, this, I want to say fraudulent, but somebody trying to sue me and tarnish my name of my business. I mean, I work hard. I don't do anything, in my opinion, unethical, but when you're part of some nasty divorce litigation for a lot of money, man, it was nuts. So not to go too much into that, but what I think is that, you're right, and use that as a source of inspiration. Of course, is going to hurt. A lot of us, we take things lost in different ways, right?
Yeah.
But I'm very similar to yourself, and it was just getting punched in the gut. And it wasn't just the one time, right? It's like getting punched in the gut every day.
It comes and it comes and it comes, and you're like, what the hell am I doing, right?
That's right. Yeah, until you change, you have that system down, and you make those changes like you talked about. Yeah, that's great.
And so it's just us having to get out of our cesspool of shit, right? And it's like, you know what? Like, sometimes we just got to kick ourselves in the ass and just be like, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. Let's fucking conquer it. Let's make it a better day. Whether it's just a slight adjustment that made it just a little bit better, but guess what? It was a better day. And it was, I was reminded today, having breakfast, it was a chaotic day yesterday, and we couldn't figure out certain things, and everything was just going for shits, right? And this little kid, my girlfriend's nephew, says, it was a great day yesterday because I got to ride in a tow truck, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And it's like, oh man, like he looked at it as a great day. And I think that's what we forget sometimes.
That's
It's like, you
right.
know what? Find the blessings in that little day.
That's right.
And it makes it great,
That's
you
good.
know?
Yeah, that's actually a good perspective, and I would like to take that, and it's time of that reflection. Like, it could always be worse.
It could always be
Yeah,
worse.
some other family member can die, your
Yeah.
kid can die, your aunt can die. It doesn't have to be that tragic.
No.
You get in a car accident, or but it can also be really great. So yeah, I think you got to just enjoy the story, man,
And
just
that's
let it
why
unfold.
I come back and I tie this back to the McKinley, right? Over here. It's like these kids have gone through worse shit than we have. And we're complaining about it.
I don't know, man. I got to listen to her story.
No, you do have to listen to their story. You do. But that's what I'm saying, though. It's like they've gone through some crazy, wild stuff, you know?
Sure.
And I've heard some stories and they've told me some stories. I'm like, wait, what? Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'll tell you one story. One kid was like, he jumped out of a car to commit suicide because he didn't want to go to court.
Kid.
Yeah.
How old? Well, approximately
like 9 years old, maybe.
Oh my gosh, to even conceive that, it's weird.
But he knew when to jump out where he wouldn't get hurt. But
so it was an act.
It was an act.
For a cry for help or attention.
A cry for help, right?
Oh, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Like these kids, they've got to go to that extent. What have they gone through?
Sure.
Right. And so that's why I'm like, man. I sit back and I hear these stories. Sometimes I'm like, fuck. I guess I could have it worse.
That's right.
And so bringing the awareness now of like what this place is, the center, like I just think it's, I feel like we as individuals and leaving our mark on the world, like, I don't care if I don't get remembered for this, right? For me, it's like if I made the impact on one kid, hey, I did something.
Yeah.
Right?
Priceless.
It's priceless. That kid could be the next Elon Musk that creates some some chip for the head, right? Or a cure for something. And so, like, and I've sat with these kids before and I've like had lunch with them and, the stuff that they tell you and you're like, man, like I could be having a crappy day, but this kid like made the best of it, out here. And so, I tell everybody, it's like, if there's one thing, like, just find the greatest of the day, like the great moment of that day, and see what we can do. But we go through our struggles no matter what. We're entrepreneurs, right? We know what risk we got into, right? But like you say, it's like I take it back to your jiu-jitsu, right? It doesn't matter how small the person is. It's gonna if it takes you down, it's gonna take you down, but it's about getting back up. And you know what? Try it again.
Yeah, and you learn one thing, even if you got one little thing out of it. So, and that's life. It could be that one contract that you got, right? Yeah. And that led you to another bigger contract or, leads to more, or just the knowledge that you gain. So yeah, like I said, it's just, and coupling with the Bible, for myself, has been very helpful. That's, so instead of the bottle service at the club, is adding those things. And it's just made a remarkable difference in the way that I think or create the habits or, focus on my priorities.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, because like I'll be frank with you, it's like I've seen the lifestyle, right, that you had, and to like do a 180, because I won't say 360 because then you're back to where you were. So 180.
I still have a couple drinks now.
Yeah, right. but it's like, but you realize that this is for the better, right? And you as a human are trying to do something better in this world, right?
Yeah, better yourself. Yeah, better those around you, and there's a reason that I think. I think a lot of people say things in moderation, but like I said, be your own consultant.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say this helps me. Okay, well, let it go. Sometimes you just got to make the change. And, it doesn't have to be drastic either. Yeah. That's the other thing about Atomic Habits. Like, hey, do that or couple it or reward yourself. There's different techniques. Yeah. You guys should read that book, but there's just little things that can be done. It's a start. Yeah.
And I just feel like, like being like McKinley and everything, and you have that story, right? You have that, like, you've gone through it. I've gone through shit. Like, that's what these kids want to hear, right? They just want to hear, like, you know what? Like, there's somebody who's gone through shit, right? But more importantly, it's like, let's give, like, I want it, like, to me, it's like, let me give back to them. Maybe it is just attention that they want, right?
Well, that's good.
And so, so to me, like, hey, why not? Like, there's no harm in it, right? You know what? This kid wants to be heard out. Let's go. I had the kid tell me he was going to throw strawberry water into my beard because he wanted to see it turn red. I was like, I go, you do that, buddy, and we're going to have a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Chris is going to teach me a jiu-jitsu move.
Yeah.
Okay, he doesn't do anything.
Right? I was like, I'm going to have Chris come over here and take care of it. But you know what, Chris?
Like, it's cool. It makes it fun.
Yeah. But I mean, I know you heard about what the campus is and everything. You know, we'll take a tour later on. But, you know, just hearing it, like, you know, what is it that, because I know a lot of people haven't heard of this place or anything like that.
Never knew existed. Yeah.
Right? It's like I call it the diamond in the rough, and like nobody knows it's here. It's behind San Dimas High School, so like nobody even knows this. They think it's part of it, but it's not.
Great location.
Yeah.
It is a
And
great
so
location.
me just asking is like what did you learn from Kristen telling you about what McKinley was about?
Well, first of all, it's just being on the map, right? And I think that's awareness, that's marketing, so that's good. So bringing awareness, that's number one. And two, a little bit about funding, you know, different sources of funding that they can get out there. And then obviously some great volunteers have donated a little bit about the history and their locations and things like that. So, you know, I think it's important no matter what it is, right? Whether it's a center like this or for older people, but yeah, you know, as part of your journey, your story, or if you're, in my opinion, as a leader, is about giving back. So you know, I do a lot with the fraternity to you know, the younger guys, and I tell these guys, listen, I'm not here because I'm better than you. I was like, I hope you guys become better than me, and listen, you know, don't forget about the old folks who helped you along the way. Maybe you're gonna hire me, right?
Exactly.
And that can be the same thing here, and I do think that there was a story. You know, I don't know how much time we have in the podcast, but I was at USC the other day, and they were saying one of the brothers, his family came from like a lot of money, and then he wanted to teach in the inner city. Yeah. But he just and he had all the right intentions. He has all the funding. He can do anything, right? Get them supplies, even out of his own pocket. He can do whatever he wants. But he just couldn't relate. Right? Like it's not that he was stupid. No. Right? You just couldn't relate to that hardship because, you know, he was, you know, good fortunate. So I'm not saying people like that can't do it, but I do like what you're saying is sometimes we need to find that a way to connect, and it can be other conduits. Maybe you could connect through with somebody else, or like I said earlier, you have a team, right? Don't do it yourself. Hey, this person has a little bit of story. Let's go in it together, kind of like when we were flipping houses, or, you know, the developments that you're doing, you know, that we've been talking about. You know, we got to put our minds together, and then, you know, we can work better. So I really, again, great leadership to bring awareness here, you know, to bring different people, share their story, and you know, giving us a chance to some alternatives to make an impact. So thanks for that leadership. Definitely that you're demonstrating. Yeah. Well, you know, with that, I think we should just, you know, be wrapping it up. And you know what? You know, I just want to thank you, Chris, for coming out here and, you know, just spending some time and, you know, just spreading some love, you know, to everybody who needs to hear you, right? And, you know, whether it's one person that hears it, but it makes the impact because they hear something you're telling them. I mean, that's all I want, right? It's just to make an impact on one soul at a time, if that's the case. That's great. Yeah. Hopefully somebody walked away with something. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. And that's the key behind everything, because our stories are to impact the other people that, you know, need to hear it. And it's what's missing in the world sometimes. Yeah. Maybe they'll impact us. You know? Exactly. Yeah. We hear about all the glory, but sometimes, you know, what we go through, it's like somebody else is going through something similar, and they just, you know what? There is light at the end of the road, right? There is something there for me to grasp onto. Always is. And so with that being said, you know, thank you again, Chris. Again, this is my buddy, Chris Rubio, your real estate broker out here in the OC in LA County. And, you know, definitely if you're interested in hearing more from him, we'll put his social media handle at the bottom of the description. Give him a follow, give him a like. You know, we're all supporting one another in this great cause. So I want to thank you guys again, and we'll see you on the next episode, you guys. Have a good one. Peace.